Alright, hey, welcome to my first video. For everybody who doesn't know me, which is probably going to be the vast majority of you, my name is Justin, and today I'm going to be giving you a rundown on which statistics predict winning in MMA. Now, a quick disclaimer. All of these statistics that I'm going to be pulling in this video come from UFC fights. Okay, so a lot of the insights may not be applicable to other levels of MMA besides the highest level of competition. So this particularly applies to amateur MMA as well as regional MMA. So the website that I am pulling these statistics from is called UFC-Stats, which contains every single UFC fight in history. So it's very useful. All right, now let's just think about this in terms of boxing, all right? Or the difference between amateur boxing and professional boxing. So in each sport, all right, different things matter. Okay? So technically it's not even the same sport, although they are both boxing, or not really the same. It's not fair to say that they're not the same sport, but they're a different style of the same sport. So in amateur boxing, all right, right here, punching volume, precision, and endurance in short bursts matter much more in comparison to professional boxing, although it still does matter in professional boxing. Whereas in professional boxing, you have things like ring control and damage inflicted, as well as proper pacing and cardio, which which matter a lot more in comparison to amateur boxing, since there are more rounds and people are generally at a higher level. Although a lot of amateur boxers are better than a lot of professional boxers. So, anyways, here is what I did to answer this question. So I used a little something called Python, and I also used Beautiful Soup. All right, so I'm assuming that everybody here knows what Python is, but if not, it's a programming language that you can do really cool stuff in. And Beautiful Soup is a library in Python that you can use to scrape websites. All right, you can use this to scrape data off websites, and this is what I used to scrape UFC-Stats, and I got the information from 8,533 fights. So I know that is a lot. It took me a very long time to do this, but I still got the job done at the end of the day. So I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back. Anyways, the metrics that I am looking at, for the sake of simplicity, and there are many more that I could be looking at, and I could do a round by round analysis for each fight, but for now I'm just going to focus on these metrics, being significant strikes landed, so strikes that cause damage, significant strikes attempted, significant strikes absorbed, takedowns landed, takedowns attempted, knockdowns, and control time. So control time is usually defined as either back control or top positions, or like top positions on the ground. And a lot of the time, people will define control time as certain positions when you're clinched along the cage. Right. So there is some variation in how and what people perceive to be control time and what people don't. So keep that in mind. And I also have efficiency metrics, which is basically how efficient your striking is, which is measured in terms of your accuracy. You basically take number of significant strikes landed and divide it by the number of significant strikes attempted, All right, and that's how you get significant striking accuracy as a percentage. And takedown accuracy is measured in a very similar way. Number of takedowns, number of successful takedowns, number of takedown attempts. Uh, and you divide the number of successful takedowns by the takedown attempts. And with all of this data, I'm going to give a descriptive analysis, so describing the data. So for all of the 8,533 fights, this, like, all of these are the averages for each metric, right? So this first row are the average metrics for the losers, all right? So the people who don't win fights. And this row are the average metrics for people who do win fights. And one thing is going to stand out. Well, many things are going to stand out. Firstly, winners generally have higher significant strikes landed on average, and they attempt slightly more on average. On average, they also absorb less strikes. They land more takedowns. They attempt more takedowns, and they are responsible for more knockdowns, and they have greater control time. So this graph basically just shows all of this information. All right. So is what this graph shows. So here are the key insights. As I said before, winners on average land more significant strikes. They attempt more strikes. They have higher, so that means that they have higher volume or output. Generally speaking, winners absorb less significant strikes than losers, and they attempt more takedowns than losers, and they have more knockdowns and control times, like I said before. So here we have the significant strike differential, which is basically just significant strikes landed in comparison to those absorbed, and the like these show the values for this in a histogram. Okay. And essentially what you can see here is the curve for winners. All right. It looks like a sort of a bell curve because the significant strike differential for all of these fighters is normally distributed, all right, across winners and losers, right? Well, not across the two, but if you take winners and losers, then among the winner data set, the significant strike differential is normally distributed, and the same applies to the loser data set. And with this being said, you can see that the significant strike differential is higher, generally speaking, among winners than losers because they cause more significant strikes and they absorb less significant strikes. I know, surprising, isn't it? So, efficiency metrics. All right, so we're still describing the data here. So, same deal as before. These are losers. These are the winners. Okay, this row is losers, this row is winners. So when it comes to accuracy, you can see that the value for significant strike accuracy is higher in winners in comparison to losers. The same applies to the takedown accuracy. And here's a pretty chart to further prove my point that winners have higher striking accuracy and higher takedown accuracy. Now we're going to get into correlations, okay? So what correlations do is they basically just give you intuition, all right? They give you intuition for which metrics are the most important in determining what wins fights in this case. Now, do keep in mind that correlation and causation are not the same thing, okay? Correlation basically measures the the relationship between two variables. So how much the direction of the relationship and to what extent they are related to each other, right? So we can see here that effective striking output or number of significant strikes has the highest correlation with winning fights, followed by knockdowns or high impact strikes, followed by top control or control time, followed by takedowns, and damage taken is negatively correlated with winning fights. So, since effective striking output or significant strikes is correlated the most with winning fights, then well, that just means that generally speaking, those who win fights happen to have a higher effective striking output. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it is effective striking output that causes people to win fights. Although, although we do know that it is part of the reason that people do win fights. So when you take into account all of the variables, right? Significant strikes landed is still what is correlated the most with winning fights, followed by takedown accuracy, knockdowns, and you can read the rest. Pause the video and read the rest to see. Okay. So, since correlations don't actually tell you what wins fights, and they basically just tell you what winners do more, okay, then what actually wins fights? And in order to answer this question, I introduced to you a logistic regression. Okay? So a logistic regression is not the same as a correlation. Well, a correlation will tell you how, to what degree, and the direction to which two variables are related to each other. A regression tells you how important certain variables are in determining certain outcomes. So in this case, how important so significant strike accuracy, takedown accuracy, and control time are in predicting who will win. Right, and as you can see, out of these three variables, it is significant strikes which has the most impact on who will win. All right, if you're just controlling for significant strikes, takedown accuracy, and control time. However, if you include all of the statistics, then it is actually knockdowns which have the most influence on who wins the fight. Because, you know, when you're knocking somebody down, you're causing a lot of damage. And UFC fights, I'm pretty sure that they're scored on the amount of damage that you're causing to your opponent rather than the number of strikes that you land. All right. So this is followed by significant strikes, which is followed by controlled time, so on and so forth. And you can actually see here that takedowns attempted has a negative regression coefficient, meaning that the more takedowns you attempt and most likely are unsuccessful in, the more that actually hurts your chances of winning. Because if you've ever shot a takedown on somebody, and you don't succeed in finishing that, boy, you are tired. You are gonna be tired. So, in conclusion, knockdowns are the strongest predictor of winning if you control for all other variables. Significant strikes do matter, but only if they lead to impact. So, only if they change the tide of the fight. Control time contributes, but it is not decisive on its own. And efficiency matters more than effort. So, efficiency, meaning how accurate you are, matters more than sheer output, because you can't cause damage to somebody if you're not landing anything. And failed offense can actually hurt you by making you tired. So, winning at UFC fight at a UFC level is more so about consequences, causing damage, rather than sheer output or even landing strikes. It is more so about visible damage. All right, this is how these fights are scored. Anyways, I appreciate you've taken the time out of your day to watch my video, and on to the next. See ya.